Hello and welcome to day 2 of The Power of Being a Woman. Look what I've got in my hands right here. Yes, a copy of The Power of Being a Woman. This is the cover that you chose when we had our contest on covers a little while back. So see, your voice does matter. We went with the cover that you chose. And I'm so excited that December 1st, it will be released on Amazon.com. So today I want to share a little bit with you from chapter 2, Back to Basics. Every chapter opens with a poem, and then the discussion begins. And I have a very special announcement, so make sure you watch to the end of this video. Don't go away. Anyway, as I was saying, I always start every chapter with a poem. I love to write poetry, and this is, I can say, my vision of when woman was first born in the earth. Like a phoenix rising, she rose in slow motion with the earth reluctant to release her. Pungent with its musky scent, soft and molded, resembling earth with all its mountains and its valleys, crests and peaks, she rose silently, hesitantly, gaining her footing, steadying herself on long, slim legs that were yet unsure of standing. She rose and stood, breathing in the air that God had breathed into her, feeling her soul unfold its wings within her. The early dusk reflected highlights of deep amber, red, and golden brown upon her skin, as the earth from which she had been formed, damp and moist, still clung insistently to her limbs. She rose, she stood, she waited. Waited until he arose, this man, this setting from which she had been taken. Even now she felt the phantom remains of other ribs encircling her, making her feel safe as she awaited her discovery. Bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh, yet a separate entity, she breathed in harmony with him, feeling his pulse, hearing his heartbeat in her head. She was one with him, though outside of him. And when he awoke, he knew, instinctively, profoundly, and definitely knew, that this woman was a mirror of himself, the extension of his own arms. And so he wrapped himself around her, tucking her beneath his heart to keep her warm. And the two became one, balancing the weight of life between them. And in the face of every tempest, she arose. In his strength, which had become hers, and hers his, she arose to redefine him daily. As a glorious testament of all that was beautiful, all that was pure, and all that was good, she arose to embrace the origin of who she was, who she would always be. Woman taken from man, from the earth, the signature of God, completing the sentence that man had begun, bringing him to life, carrying the breath of his spirit within her, the glory of her man, the covering of her children, the giver of life. She could not be contained, for she bore all things within herself. And in this capacity, she arose to give as only a woman can give, for it is a gift to the world, this creation called woman. Well, we're talking about getting back to the basics, of rediscovering and redefining our power as God intended when He created us. I think I mentioned yesterday that man and woman were actually created at the same time. The woman was nestled inside of the man, waiting for God to manifest her at the appropriate time. You see, God was about to give man an assignment and allow him to work it out for a little while before he realized that he needed help. Actually, he didn't realize that God said, "It is not good for this man to be alone. I will give him a help meet for him." Now, when we say help meet for someone, it means someone who is divinely equipped and qualified for the task at hand. That does not suggest inferiority on any level. That means that the person that is given as an assistant to the man had to match his power or perhaps even surpass it in certain capacities. As we know, man and woman are uniquely different from one another, and this isn't something to struggle over or contend with. This is something to literally embrace and celebrate, because the yin and the yang together work to make the perfect sauce, all right? So when we talk about the woman and we talk about the man, well, John Gray said, "Men are from Mars, women are from Venus." Well, we know they both came from heaven out of the mind of God, but with different capabilities and different capacities that brought balance to the universe when they worked together in tandem and in harmony. Now, there's just one little glitch that happened here. As they were getting used to each other and the woman was presented to Adam, and Adam woke up and said, "Wow, whoa, man." That's what he said. Whoa, I'm going to call her woman. And literally that meant man with a womb. Again, giving testimony to the fact that they were of equal strengths but different capacities. Well, after God presented Eve to Adam, the plot thickened. You see, the serpent knew the woman's power, perhaps even more than she did herself. He decided to seduce her, to cause the man to fall out of God's good graces. And so he asked her, "Did God really say not to eat of the fruit?" And you know how we as women always like to elaborate, "Oh, yes, and we're not even supposed to touch it." You see, when we have conversations with snakes, it always leads to the wrong place. They're better left unattended. He said, "That's not true. God's just holding out on you. He just doesn't want you to be like him." And the more he talked, the more he seduced the woman. And she saw that the fruit on the tree was beautiful to look at, and it sounded like it was delicious, and why not if it was going to make her wise? He appealed to the lust of her eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. And so she took the fruit and she ate it. And here's her first display of power. She hands it to Adam, and even though he knew better, he ate it too, knowing what it would cost him. Or perhaps he didn't have the full realization. But as you know, the conversation that happened after that was quite revealing. And the part that I want to zero in on is God comes to the garden. They both hide. They sew fig leaves to cover themselves because all of a sudden they realize that they are naked. And when God approaches, they hide from his presence. Well, they finally come out of hiding, and Adam says, "Well, we were hiding because, we were naked." And God said, "Who told you that you were naked?" Good question. What does nakedness imply? It implies that you're not covered. It implies that you are less than, that you are lacking something. And God wanted to know who had told them that they were lacking any good thing. Well, as the conversation went on, Adam blamed Eve because truly she was the influencer that got him to eat the fruit. Now, he didn't have to obey her, but women are powerful. Don't forget that. That's where we're landing today. Now, Eve said something that I want to hone in on. She said, "The serpent deceived me and I forgot." What did she forget? She forgot that she was already like God. You see, God had said, "Come, let us make man in our image." Male and female, he created them. So she was already like God. She was already powerful. She was already a vehicle of creation and transformation because she had been molded and made in the very image of God, given His DNA as He had breathed into them the breath of life and they became living souls. All of the attributes of God was already within them. She forgot, and so she ate and fell from her godlike state. But we know that God has reinstated us into that position through Christ. So at this point in time, I want to remind you to ask yourself a couple of questions. Who told you that you were naked? Who told you that you were lacking any good thing? Who told you that you didn't possess the power to change and transform your world? Who told you that you were not godlike? She forgot that she needed nothing outside of what she already had. Can you imagine they had access to every tree in that garden and the enemy got them to focus on the one thing? The one thing, I call it one-treeitis. What's the one thing in your life that gets you stuck and distracted from all the other things that you have access to? What have you forgotten about your ability, about your creativity, about your inner power, about your strength, about your capacity to survive and thrive in spite of anything that life throws at you? What have you forgotten? What do you need to reclaim? That is the question. I want you to do a little assignment for me. I want you to get your journal and sit and ponder and think, what do I need to reclaim? What pieces of my power have I surrendered to deception? You know what? I'd love for you to even write it in the chat, or you can email it to me, info@michellehammond.com. I'd love to hear from you, hear your thoughts, and continue this conversation. So I did promise you an announcement, and that's all I'm going to give you for today. But everyone who orders or pre-orders this book up to the second week of December, if you send me the proof of your purchase, I'm going to send you a free gift. Yes, that's right. A devotional workbook to accompany you in your study and your devotional time. Isn't that exciting? I can't wait. December 1st is coming, and it's coming fast. Make sure you spread the news with friends, and I'll see you here again tomorrow.